The massive Galactic Council vessel hung in Earth's orbit like a metallic jewel. Its hull gleamed under the sun's light. Thousands of people on Earth looked up at night, pointing at the new star that didn't move like the others. Admiral Tal of the Vexari Hegemony stood on the bridge of the ship. His green skin reflected the blue glow of the command screens. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he watched Earth through the main view screen. Another primitive world, he muttered to his second-in-command. He tapped his clawed fingers on the smooth metal railing. Scan their military capabilities. Officer Knox moved quickly to the scanning station. His compound eyes reflected dozens of tiny screens as data poured in. His antennae twitched with surprise. "Sir, unusual readings," Knox said, turning to his commander. "They have nuclear capabilities but no energy shields. Advanced computing systems, but limited space travel. Their weapons are mostly projectile-based." Tal walked to the scanning station, his long robes flowing behind him. He studied the readings with narrowed eyes. "Interesting," Tal mused. He rubbed his chin with 3 fingers. "Another species with development gaps. They focus on some technologies and ignore others." He straightened up. "Send the greeting transmission. Let's see how they respond." Down on Earth, emergency lights flashed in the United Nations building. Representatives from all nations had gathered within hours of the alien ship's arrival. The large chamber buzzed with nervous energy and hushed conversations. President Kim of South Korea stood at the podium. At 62, she had led her country through economic crisis and regional tensions, but nothing had prepared her for this. She gripped the sides of the podium and looked out at the worried faces. "The aliens have sent a transmission," she announced. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. "They call themselves the Vexari Hegemony, representatives of something called the Galactic Council. They have requested a diplomatic meeting." Murmurs spread through the assembly. A representative from Kenya stood up. "How do we know this isn't the beginning of an invasion?" President Kim nodded. "We don't. But we cannot respond with hostility to what appears to be a peaceful approach." She paused. "We will proceed with caution but openness. Defense Director Park will lead our military contingency plan while we prepare a diplomatic team." Director Park stood up from his seat in the front row. He was a stocky man with short gray hair and calculating eyes. He nodded grimly at the assembly. Later, in a secure room beneath the UN building, Park spread satellite images across a table. Military commanders from 12 nations leaned in to study them. "We've been analyzing their ships since they entered our solar system 3 days ago," Park said. He pointed to energy readings from the alien vessel. "Their energy weapons are impressive, likely plasma-based, but they seem to rely entirely on directed energy technology." "Is that significant?" asked the French general, her brow furrowed. Park's smile was thin. "It might be." He pressed a button, and a holographic display showed Earth's orbital defense systems. "They haven't scanned our naval rail platforms yet. Our electromagnetic weapons might be something they've never encountered." The British admiral leaned forward. "You think our railguns might work against their shields?" "Physics is physics," Park replied. "Their energy shields might stop lasers and plasma, but I doubt they're designed to stop a tungsten rod moving at Mach 25. The American general nodded slowly. "So while they're looking down on our primitive projectile weapons, we might have an advantage they don't expect," Park finished. In Earth's orbit, Tal reviewed the human response to their greeting. "They want to send diplomats to meet us," he told his command staff. "How quaint. Prepare the receiving bay." He turned to his weapons officer. "Keep weapons charged but masked. Let's not frighten the primitives yet." Officer Knox approached cautiously. "Sir, should we scan their orbital platforms more thoroughly? They seem to have some kind of weapons systems in place." Tal waved a dismissive hand. "Primitive nuclear missiles, most likely. Nothing that could penetrate our shields." He turned to the viewport, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Another world for the hegemony. The Council will be pleased. Back on Earth, the first diplomatic team prepared to board a shuttle to meet the aliens. President Kim shook hands with each diplomat. "Remember," she said quietly, "learn everything you can about their intentions. Director Park's team will be monitoring everything." In his command center, Park watched the shuttle launch. His aide handed him a tablet with new scans. "Sir, they're scanning our main cities now," the aide reported. Park nodded, unsurprised. "But not our naval bases or orbital platforms." "No, sir." Park allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Let's keep our cards close for now." He looked at the massive alien ship on the screen. "They think they're dealing with helpless primitives. That assumption might be our greatest advantage." 3 days after first contact, 6 human diplomats walked through the gleaming corridors of the Vexari flagship. They tried to hide their awe at the alien technology surrounding them. Glowing energy conduits ran along transparent walls. Strange creatures that might have been pets or robots scurried along the ceiling. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and ozone. Director Park walked at the front of the human group. His face revealed nothing of his thoughts as a tall Vexari escort led them to the diplomatic reception hall. The hall itself was impressive. A vast chamber with a curved ceiling that somehow showed the stars outside, as if the top of the room wasn't there at all. Dozens of alien species mingled in groups, drinking colorful liquids from floating containers. "The humans have arrived," announced their escort. The room didn't exactly fall silent, but Park noticed how conversations paused as alien eyes, tentacles, and sensory organs turned to examine the newcomers. Admiral Tal approached them. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his green exoskeleton gleaming under the starlight. His 4 arms were adorned with what looked like military decorations. "Welcome to the flagship of the Galactic Council," Tal said, his words translated by a small device on his chest. "We are pleased you accepted our invitation." Park bowed slightly. "Thank you for hosting us, Admiral. Earth is honored by your attention." The reception proceeded with awkward small talk. The human diplomats were introduced to various alien representatives, some friendly, others coldly curious. Park noted how the aliens clustered in obvious power groups, with the Vexari clearly at the center. After an hour, Admiral Tal guided Park away from the others to a quiet corner with a view of Earth below. "Your planet is quite beautiful," Tal said, gesturing with a lower arm. "Rich in resources, I imagine." "We've managed our resources carefully," Park replied, noting the predatory interest in Tal's compound eyes. "Your species shows promise," Tal said condescendingly. He loomed over Park. "Under Vexari protection, you could advance quickly. Our treaty offers generous terms." Park kept his face neutral, but his mind raced. This wasn't diplomacy. It was the opening move of subjugation. He had seen this before in Earth's own history. "Your offer is generous," Park replied carefully. "We'll need time to consider your proposal and present it to our united governments." Admiral Tal's translator conveyed his dismissive tone. "Of course, we understand primitive." He paused, mandibles clicking in what might have been embarrassment. "I mean, developing. Species require more time for decisions. Take all the time you need." He made a gesture that might have been patronizing. 3 of your Earth days should be sufficient." Park nodded politely, though his stomach tightened. 3 days wasn't negotiation time. It was an ultimatum. The human delegation returned to Earth that evening. In the secure conference room beneath the UN building, they reported to President Kim and the Security Council. "They're offering protection in exchange for resource rights," Park explained. "The standard colonial approach." President Kim frowned. "Do they understand we aren't looking for protectors?" "I don't think they care what we're looking for," Park replied. "They've decided our role in their galactic structure." At midnight, Lieutenant Sun ran through the hallway of the defense headquarters. She burst into Park's office without knocking, her face pale. "Sir, we have a situation." She placed a tablet on his desk, showing radar tracking. "A Vexari scout ship has entered Earth atmosphere without clearance. They broke away from their main vessel 30 minutes ago." Park stood up. Location. They're scanning our Pacific Naval Base, the one with the prototype rail platforms. Park's expression hardened. So they're already testing our boundaries. He picked up a secure phone. Get me the president. And tell Admiral Han to power up defensive systems, but take no action yet. On the Galactic Council ship orbiting Earth, representatives from 12 species gathered in the high chamber. The Vexari diplomat, Mech, addressed the assembly. Humans are primitive but resourceful, he said. Their planet has valuable heavy metals and biological compounds. We recommend establishing a protectorate relationship. A tentacled being from the Oort systems waved appendages in agreement. They seem harmless enough. Their most advanced weapons are still projectile-based. Imagine. Chunks of metal propelled by chemicals. Laughter rippled through several delegates. Their ships can barely reach their own moon. Added another alien. They'll be grateful for our guidance. Only the ancient myth ambassador remained silent. The crystalline being had been observing council proceedings for over 2,000 years. Their faceted body reflected the chamber lights as they finally rose to speak. I would counsel caution, the myth said, their voice like chimes. Species that survive on harsh worlds often develop unexpected solutions to problems. Their technology path may differ from ours, but that doesn't make it inferior, merely different. The Vexari diplomat scoffed. Different? They're using technology we abandoned millennia ago. Perhaps, the myth responded. But I've observed their transmissions. They are unusually adaptable and surprisingly warlike for such a young species. I would not recommend underestimating them. Back on Earth, Park watched satellite footage of the Vexari scout ship hovering over the Pacific Ocean. It was small but clearly military in design. They're scanning our rail platform testing area, said Admiral Han, pointing to energy readings. But the platforms are powered down and look like regular naval vessels from above. Park nodded. Good. Let them think they know all our capabilities. He turned to his team. Prepare response options. If they want to play games, we'll play too. But we'll play to win. 1 week after the scouting incident, alarms sounded in Earth's Defense Command Center. Operators tracked 5 large Vexari warships moving into position near Jupiter. Their energy signatures showed weapons powered up. They're not even trying to hide it, Director Park said, watching the main screen with narrowed eyes. This is a show of force. President Kim stood beside him, her face grim. Can our ships reach Jupiter quickly enough to respond? 3 of our defense vessels are ready, Admiral Han said. Not our biggest ships, but they carry the new railgun systems. Park nodded. Send them. The Vexari need to understand we won't be bullied. Within hours, 3 Earth ships were speeding toward Jupiter. The EDS Dauntless led the small formation, with the Swift and Valiant following closely behind. They were small compared to the massive Vexari warships, but their sleek black hulls hid powerful new technology. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, watching Jupiter grow larger on the main screen. At 42, Lee had spent 20 years in the Space Force, but never imagined his first alien encounter would be like this. Vexari ships are hailing us, reported his communications officer. On screen, Lee ordered. Admiral Tal's green face appeared before them. His mandibles clicked rapidly in what the translation software identified as laughter. Your ships are so small, Admiral Tal said, mockery clear in his voice. And where are their energy cannons? Did you bring knives to an energy weapon fight? Lee kept his face neutral. We're here to observe your presence in our solar system, Admiral. Tal's compound eyes gleamed. Observe from a safe distance. Little humans. We're conducting military exercises. His tone made it clear this was a threat. The communication ended, and Lee turned to his weapons officer. Status of the main railgun. Charged and ready, sir. Targeting solutions locked. Lee nodded and opened a channel to Earth. On the secure line, Director Park's face appeared. They're making a show of it, Lee reported, threatening us with exercises while scanning our ships. Park's image nodded. We expected this. They're testing us, looking for submission. He paused, then said firmly, "They need to understand we're not defenseless. Authorization granted for demonstration. One shot only." "Understood," Lee replied. The Vexeri flagship broadcast another message to all 3 human vessels. "Your vessels are cute, humans, perhaps suitable for parades. Now watch how real space-faring species conduct warfare." Their massive forward cannons began to glow with energy. Lee opened a channel. "Admiral Tal, we request you move your fleet away from our solar system." "Or what, human?" came the amused reply. Lee's eyes hardened. "This," he said, and gave the order. The weapons officer pressed a sequence of commands. Deep in the Dauntless, electromagnetic coils activated in sequence. A 15-kilogram tungsten rod accelerated from 0 to 30 kilometers per second in less than a heartbeat. The rod shot through space, a barely visible streak heading toward the Vexari flagship. It struck the energy shields, which flared bright blue for an instant. Then the rod continued through as if the shields weren't there. It punched through the outer hull of the massive alien vessel, leaving a perfect circular hole. On the Dauntless's screen, they could see the Vexeri ship venting atmosphere from the wound. Alarms blared on the alien vessel. The bridge was chaos as crew members rushed to seal compartments and assess damage. "Impossible," shouted Tal, mandibles clicking frantically. "Their primitive weapons shouldn't affect our shields." Our sensors detected no energy weapons. The Myth ambassador, who had joined the Vexeri fleet to observe, stood calmly amid the panic. The crystalline being's faceted body glittered with something like humor. "Kinetic energy doesn't care about energy shields, Admiral," the Myth said softly. "Your shields are designed to disperse energy attacks. Laser, plasma, particle beams. But these humans use mass accelerators, physical objects moving at extreme speeds. The shields barely slowed it down." Tal stared at the damage reports in disbelief. "One tiny ship did this." "One tiny ship with one tiny weapon," the Myth corrected. "Imagine what their larger vessels might carry." On the Dauntless, Lee watched the Vexeri ships carefully. His weapons officer looked up from her console. "Sir, they're powering up weapons. Should we prepare for full engagement?" Lee shook his head. "No. We made our point with one shot. If they attack now, they'd be the aggressors." He opened a channel to the Vexari flagship. "Admiral Tal, that was a demonstration using minimal power. Our railgun can fire projectiles at much higher velocities if needed. We have dozens of such weapons in our fleet. We request again that you withdraw your forces from Jupiter space." For long moments, there was no response. Then Tal's face appeared on screen, his composure recovered, but his eyes burning with anger. "A clever trick, humans. Perhaps you are more interesting than we thought. We will withdraw our exercise, for now. But the Galactic Council will hear about this unprovoked attack." "Not unprovoked," Lee replied calmly. "And we look forward to addressing the full council." As the Vexeri ships began to move away, Lee sent a message back to Earth. "Demonstration complete. One shot fired. Vexeri withdrawing." In the Earth Defense Center, cheers erupted. Director Park allowed himself a small smile. "Now they know," he said quietly to President Kim. "The question is, what will they do next?" News spread rapidly through the Galactic Council worlds. The story grew with each telling. Humans, the primitives with chemical rockets and projectile weapons, had damaged a Vexeri battle cruiser with technology the energy-focused galactic community had long abandoned. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, aliens gathered in viewing halls to watch leaked footage of the human railgun shot penetrating the Vexeri shields. The hole it left was small but perfect, an impossible wound in supposedly impenetrable defenses. "Is it real?" asked a tentacled merchant to no one in particular. "The Vexeri admit it happened," replied a furry being nearby. "Though they claim it was a lucky shot." In the elegant chambers of the Council High Tower, representatives argued loudly about the implications. "These humans use outdated technology," shouted the Vexari delegate, his green exoskeleton flushed darker with anger. "It was a fluke that pierced your best shields," observed a reptilian diplomat, causing hisses of laughter from several species. The Vexari ships retreated from Earth's solar system, claiming it was a diplomatic gesture of goodwill. But everyone knew the truth. They had been caught off guard and humiliated. Within weeks, 6 different alien species sent diplomatic missions to Earth. The United Nations had to quickly build a special complex to house the sudden influx of extraterrestrial ambassadors. The Myth were first to establish a permanent embassy. Their crystalline ambassador, Cole, requested frequent meetings with Earth's defense leaders. Unlike the Vexari, the Myth showed genuine interest in human technology and culture. Director Park sat across from Ambassador Cole in a secure meeting room. The Myth's faceted body caught the light, sending rainbow patterns across the table. "Your species fascinates us," Cole said, their voice like wind chimes. "You developed along a completely different technological path than most council races." Park sipped his coffee. "How so?" "While we refined energy manipulation, lasers, plasma, force fields, you perfected the acceleration of mass." Cole gestured with a crystalline appendage. "You found ways to make simple physics do extraordinary work." Park nodded. "We were working with what we had. Energy weapons require power sources we couldn't develop until recently. Yet in doing so, you created weapons our defenses never needed to account for." The Myth's body pulsed with blue light, which their translator indicated was appreciation. "Your railguns are primitive in concept but advanced in execution. We find this innovative approach refreshing." Meanwhile, on the Vexari homeworld, a very different conversation took place. In a dark chamber lit by green bioluminescent panels, Admiral Tal knelt before the Vexari High Command. "You've allowed humans to damage our flagship," said Supreme Commander Vex. "You have brought shame to the hegemony." Tal kept his head bowed. "The humans used unexpected weapons technology. Their railguns are primitive devices that should not have penetrated our shields," interrupted Vex. "Your failure is unacceptable." The Supreme Commander gestured, and guards escorted Tal from the chamber. Another Vexari officer stepped forward, younger, with a battle-scarred exoskeleton. "Admiral Wren, you will take command of the fleet," Vex announced. "What is your assessment of the human threat?" Wren stood rigidly at attention. "The humans are clever, but still weak. Their ships are few and fragile. Their only advantage was surprise, which they no longer possess." "Your recommendation?" "We must restore Vexari honor," Wren replied without hesitation. "The humans caught us by surprise once. It won't happen again. We will attack with overwhelming force." Supreme Commander Vex considered this. "The Council has forbidden direct action against Earth for now. Too many species are suddenly interested in human technology." Wren's mandibles clicked in frustration. "The Council fears what they do not understand. These humans and their primitive weapons. Their primitive weapons that pierced our best shields," Vex reminded him sharply. "A single shot that caught us unprepared," Wren insisted. "Our engineers are already modifying our shields to resist kinetic weapons. Given time to prepare properly, we can crush these humans and take their resources as originally planned." Back on Earth, Park reviewed reports from intelligence satellites. The Vexari had withdrawn to the edge of the solar system, but hadn't left completely. Their ships lurked near Neptune, ostensibly for observation. "They're planning something," Park told President Kim during their daily briefing. "The question is what and when." Kim nodded thoughtfully. "And how are our own preparations coming?" Park pulled up schematics on his tablet. "The orbital platform network is ahead of schedule. We've adapted the railgun technology for space deployment. If the Vexari come back in force, they'll face more than one ship with one gun. The Myth Ambassador has offered technical assistance," Kim noted. "Can they be trusted?" "I believe so. They seem genuinely interested in alliance rather than conquest, and they've provided valuable intelligence about Vexari shield technology. In orbit above Earth, construction ships worked continuously on a ring of defensive platforms. Each contained multiple railguns and conventional weapons. The platforms were small and looked unimpressive, just as the human ships had appeared to the Vexari. But appearances, as the Vexari had learned, could be deceiving. In deep space, Admiral Wren watched tactical simulations of Earth's defenses. His staff had gathered all available intelligence on human military capabilities. "We will not underestimate them again," he told his war council. "When we strike, it will be with such overwhelming force that no railgun, no matter how clever, will save them." 3 months after the Jupiter incident, Earth's defense systems detected unusual energy readings at the edge of the solar system. 30 massive shapes emerged from faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. The Vexari had returned. Alarms blared in defense centers worldwide. In the command bunker beneath Mount Cheyenne, Director Park rushed to the main control room. Massive screens showed the incoming Vexari fleet, the largest alien armada ever seen in Earth's solar system. "They've brought everything they have," Admiral Han said grimly. 30 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. President Kim's face appeared on a secure channel. "How long until they reach Earth?" "At their current speed, 5 hours," Park replied. "They're moving fast." On the Lid Vexari dreadnought, Admiral Wren stood tall on the command deck. His exoskeleton had been polished to a high shine for the occasion. Victory would restore Vexari honor and his own standing in the hegemony. "Status report," he demanded. "Human defense ships are scrambling, but they have only 7 vessels that can intercept us," reported his tactical officer. "Their orbital stations appear to be non-military." Wren's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. "They never expected us to return with such force." "No warnings, no diplomacy," he ordered. "Full attack speed." What the Vexari didn't know was that humans had been busy during the 3-month reprieve. Those non-military orbital stations were something entirely new. In the control center, Park watched the approaching fleet with calm determination. Engineers and military personnel worked quickly at their stations around him. "Are we ready?" he asked the chief engineer. "As ready as we'll ever be," she replied. "The grid has never been tested at full capacity." Park nodded and pressed his palm against a biometric scanner. "Defense grid authorization." "Park, code Thunderbolt." President Kim appeared on screen again and placed her hand on a similar scanner. "Defense grid authorization." Kim, code Guardian. Computer systems around the world linked together. In orbit, 24 satellites that had appeared to be simple communication relays began to transform. Hidden panels opened to reveal multiple railgun barrels on each platform. "Orbital platforms responding," Park announced, watching status lights turn green across the board. "Railgun arrays powered." As the Vexari fleet approached Earth orbit, their sensors finally detected the true nature of the orbital platforms. Alarm signals blared on the Vexari flagship. "Admiral," shouted the tactical officer. "The human stations, their weapons platforms." Wren rushed to the view screen. "Evasive maneuvers. Raise all shields." But it was too late. From 24 satellites positioned strategically around Earth, magnetically accelerated projectiles launched simultaneously. Hundreds of tungsten rods, each the size of a small car, accelerated to unimaginable speeds. The kinetic energy weapons tore through the Vexari ships like paper. No energy shields in the galaxy could stop that much mass moving at that velocity. The first volley struck 17 ships. Explosions bloomed silently in space as the rounds punched through hulls, energy cores, and command centers. The second volley, fired 30 seconds later, targeted the ships attempting evasive maneuvers. Within minutes, half the Vexari fleet was disabled or destroyed. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but Earth's defense ships had moved into position to cut off their escape route. On the flagship, Admiral Wren stood amid the chaos of his damaged bridge. Fires burned in control stations. The main viewport was cracked, emergency force fields barely containing the atmosphere. How? He whispered, watching his mighty fleet being torn apart by weapons he had dismissed as primitive. How could they do this? With shaking hands, he opened a communication channel to Earth. Admiral Wren's voice trembled as he broadcast the surrender. Attention Earth forces. We yield. I repeat, we yield to Earth forces. Ceasefire. Please, ceasefire. In the command center, cheers erupted as Park gave the order to stop the barrage. Accept their surrender, he told the communications officer. Tell them to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. A week later, the full Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in its long history, humanity was granted emergency membership without the usual centuries of observation. President Kim stood before the assembled representatives of over 200 alien species. At 5 feet tall, she seemed tiny compared to most of the delegates, but her presence filled the chamber. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice steady and clear. Earth did not ask to be thrust into galactic politics. We did not seek conflict with the Vexari hegemony. We merely defended our home. She paused, looking around the chamber. Earth does not seek conquest or revenge. We seek knowledge and friendship among the stars. But know this, we will defend ourselves. Any species that threatens our world will face the consequences. The council chambers erupted in discussion. Some species were outraged at the human aggression, but many more were impressed. The balance of power had shifted overnight. Later that evening, in his private quarters aboard the council station, Director Park shared a drink with the Myth Ambassador. The humans had brought a bottle of Earth whiskey, which the crystalline being could somehow consume by absorbing it through their outer layer. You know, said Cole, crystalline form shimmering with blue and gold lights as they absorbed the alcohol. Nobody saw that coming. Railguns. Such an elegant solution. Park smiled, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. Sometimes the oldest ideas work best. Your people focused on energy manipulation because that was your path. We focused on kinetics because that was ours. And now, the galaxy will never be the same, Cole observed. The Vexari hegemony is broken. Other large powers are reassessing their military technology. And humans, newcomers to space, are suddenly a force to be reckoned with. Through the viewport, Earth shone blue and green against the blackness of space, now a recognized power in a much larger universe. What will you do next? Cole asked. Hark watched his homeworld spin slowly below. Learn. Explore. Make friends where we can. He took another sip of whiskey. And keep improving our railguns, just in case.